fog, slowly suffocating any warmth we had left. My brother Lucas and I felt it every day, but today it was more suffocating than ever. As we sat at the kitchen table, our homework forgotten, Evelyn's voice sliced through the silence. "You two better have this kitchen spotless by the time I'm done cooking," she said, her back to us. There was an unmistakable sharpness in her tone, one that made both Lucas and me tense up. I tried to sound calm as I replied, "Sure, Evelyn. We'll take care of it." Lucas just nodded, his eyes not leaving his book. The front door opened, bringing a brief hope that maybe Dad's arrival might lighten the mood, but that hope vanished as soon as he walked in. His tired eyes briefly met mine before landing on Evelyn. "What's going on here?" Dad asked, his voice weary. "Nothing, just the usual," Evelyn responded, her voice sweet but her eyes cold. Dad didn't say anything more. He never did. He just retreated to his office, leaving Lucas and me to clean up after dinner. In my room, Lucas and I could finally talk freely. "She's got Dad wrapped around her finger," Lucas said, anger and helplessness mixing in his voice. I nodded, feeling a lump in my throat. "We're on our own, Lucas. We have to be there for each other." The next day, I opened up to my best friend Jenna at school. "I don't know what to do," I confessed. "It's like she's trying to erase us from Dad's life." Jenna's concern was evident. "You can't let her win, Mia. Maybe you should gather evidence or something. Show Dad what she's really like." I considered Jenna's words. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was time to take a stand. That night, back at home, the idea started to take shape. I lay in bed, thinking about Jenna's suggestion. Lucas, already asleep, looked so peaceful, so unaware of the storm brewing in my mind. "We need proof, Lucas," I whispered in the dark, more to myself than to him. "We need to show Dad who Evelyn really is." The following days turned into a silent mission. Lucas and I started to document everything. Evelyn's harsh words, her cold actions, the way she treated us when Dad wasn't around. We were careful, making sure she didn't catch on to what we were doing. It was exhausting, living in a constant state of alertness. But we knew we had no choice. This was our life now, a life of gathering evidence against the person who was supposed to be part of our family. The strain was starting to show. Lucas was quieter at school, and I found myself constantly distracted, my thoughts always returning to our situation at home. One evening, as we were sitting in my room, going over the notes we had gathered, Lucas looked at me with tired eyes. "Do you think this will change anything, Mia? Do you think Dad will even believe us?" I didn't have an answer. All I had was hope, a flickering flame in the darkness that was our life. "We have to try, Lucas," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "We owe it to ourselves to try." In the attic, buried under years of forgotten memories, I found a clue in an old yearbook, a photo of Mom and Evelyn, looking like the best of friends. It made no sense. That night I confronted Mom about it. "Mia, it's a long story. We were friends, but things got complicated when your father came into the picture. Evelyn never got over losing him to me," Mom confessed, a note of sadness in her voice. I was stunned. This whole feud stemmed from a teenage crush? I had to talk to Dad. He needed to understand the gravity of the situation. "Dad, you need to hear this. It's about Evelyn and Mom in high school," I urged him, finding him in his office. "Not now, Mia," Dad replied, not even looking up. "But it's important, Dad. It's about why Evelyn hates us," I persisted. He sighed, finally meeting my gaze. "Mia, the past is the past. We can't dwell on it." Frustrated, I turned to my best friend Jenna for advice. "So Evelyn's been holding on to this grudge all these years? That's crazy," Jenna said, shocked. "Yeah, and Dad won't even listen. He just brushes it off," I told her, feeling hopeless. "You need to find a way to show him the truth, not just tell him," Jenna suggested thoughtfully. I spent the next few days digging deeper into the past. I spoke to Mom and Evelyn's former classmates and looked up old social media posts. The more I found out, the more I understood Evelyn's deep-seated resentment. She hadn't just been heartbroken. She'd been obsessed with Dad, and had even tried to sabotage his relationship with Mom. With this new information, I approached Dad again. "Listen, Dad, it's serious. Evelyn has been carrying this hatred for decades. She even tried to break you and Mom up," I told him, determination in my voice. Dad finally looked at me with real concern, I had no idea, Mia. I'll talk to Evelyn. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Perhaps now we were finally getting somewhere. Determined to mend our broken family, I set up a meeting between Mom and Evelyn. I hoped that by bringing them face to face, they could sort out their past, and we could all move forward. I convinced Mom to come over for dinner, telling her it was time to clear the air. The night of the dinner, the tension was thick. Mom arrived, a cautious look in her eyes, while Evelyn had an air of forced politeness. Dad just seemed hopeful that this would all work out. "So why are we all here, Mia?" Evelyn asked with a thin smile as we sat down at the dining table. I took a deep breath. "I thought it's time to talk about the past, to resolve things for the sake of our family." Mom nodded, looking directly at Evelyn. "I agree. There were misunderstandings between us, and I'm sorry for any pain I caused you." Evelyn's smile faded. "Misunderstandings? You stole the love of my life from me. How is that a misunderstanding?" Dad intervened. "Evelyn, that was a long time ago. We need to move on." But Evelyn wasn't having it. "Move on? You expect me to just forget everything?" The conversation spiraled quickly. Old grievances were aired, and voices were raised. I tried to mediate, but it was like trying to stop a wildfire with a cup of water. The meeting ended with Mom leaving in tears, and Evelyn storming off to her room. Dad was shell-shocked. "I didn't realize it was this bad," he muttered. The next day, things went from bad to worse. Evelyn was more hostile than ever, especially towards me. She seemed to think I was conspiring against her. Her manipulations grew more cunning, turning Dad against us with subtle lies and insinuations. One evening, Lucas came to my room, worry etched on his face. "Mia, Evelyn told Dad that we're ungrateful and disrespectful. He's starting to believe her." I felt a surge of anger. "This is getting out of hand. She's tearing our family apart." We heard footsteps and hushed our conversation. Evelyn's voice floated up the stairs, laced with fake concern as she spoke to Dad. "I just want what's best for our family, but Mia and Lucas, they don't respect me as their stepmother." Dad's reply was weary. "I know, Evelyn. I'll talk to them." Our home had become a battleground, with Evelyn holding all the weapons. Lucas and I were at a loss. Our attempt at mediation had backfired, making things worse than before. The following weeks were a blur of tension and whispered arguments. I felt like I was walking on eggshells, constantly trying to prove Evelyn wrong, but failing each time. One night, as Lucas and I sat in my room, a defeated silence hung between us. "We need a new plan, Mia. We can't go on like this," Lucas said, his voice low. I nodded, my mind racing. "You're right. But what can we do? Dad won't listen, and Evelyn, she's just getting worse. We'll figure something out. We have to," Lucas replied, determination in his eyes. As I lay in bed that night, I knew Lucas was right. We had to take a stand. We had to fight back. But how? Lucas and I knew we had to gather proof of Evelyn's toxicity, something concrete that even Dad couldn't ignore. We turned detectives in our own home, using our phones to record her tirades and outbursts. One evening, Evelyn was particularly cruel. "You kids are so ungrateful. After everything I do for this family," she sneered, unaware that Lucas was recording from his pocket. We were careful, always on guard for the right moment to capture her true nature. But the constant vigilance was exhausting, emotionally draining. Our breakthrough came a week later. Evelyn had a habit of bad-mouthing Mom when Dad wasn't around. This time, I managed to record her spewing venom about Mom, saying things that were downright vicious. "Once Dad hears this, he'll have to believe us," I whispered to Lucas as we huddled in my room, listening to the playback. But our plan to confront Dad with the evidence backfired. When we played the recordings for him, his reaction was not what we expected. "Evelyn is under a lot of stress. You kids need to be more understanding," Dad said, dismissing our concerns. I couldn't believe it. He was choosing Evelyn over us, his own children. The realization was a crushing blow. Lucas and I exchanged a look of disbelief. We retreated to my room, the weight of our father's betrayal heavy on our shoulders. "Dad doesn't see it. He's blind to what she's doing," Lucas said, frustration in his voice. I sat on the edge of my bed, feeling helpless. "We're on our own, Lucas. If we're going to expose Evelyn, we can't rely on Dad." The following days were a tense cat-and-mouse game. Evelyn grew more cunning in her manipulation, turning Dad against us with every opportunity. One night, I overheard her talking to Dad in their room. "Mia and Lucas are out of control, Dad. I don't know what to do with them," Evelyn said, her voice laced with fake concern. I felt a surge of anger. She was playing the victim, twisting everything to fit her narrative. "We need more evidence, something undeniable," I told Lucas later. He nodded in agreement. "But how? She's always one step ahead of us." I thought for a moment. "We need to catch her in the act, show everyone her true colors." So, we hatched a plan. We would provoke Evelyn into revealing her abusive side in front of Dad. It was risky, but we were desperate. The opportunity came during a family dinner. I deliberately brought up a topic I knew would trigger Evelyn. "So, Evelyn, why did you and Mom stop being friends in high school?" I asked innocently. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "That's none of your business, Mia." I pushed further. "But I think it's important for us to understand our family history, don't you?" Evelyn lost it. She exploded in anger, shouting and hurling insults. Dad sat there, stunned, finally witnessing Evelyn's true nature. After the dinner fiasco, Lucas and I felt a mix of triumph and fear. We had exposed Evelyn, but at what cost? As I lay in bed that night, I realized our battle was far from over. We had shown Dad the truth, but now we needed to prepare for Evelyn's retaliation. After the dinner incident, Lucas and I knew it was time to escalate things. We needed a foolproof plan to expose Evelyn. I thought long and hard, and then it hit me. We could use her annual charity event to our advantage. The event was a big deal in our community, and Evelyn prided herself on its success. It was the perfect stage to reveal her true nature. I reached out to some of Evelyn's colleagues and employees, gathering stories of her mistreatment and abuse of power. We compiled emails, recorded testimonies, and collected a trove of evidence. But the key to our plan was a live recording of Evelyn's outburst, which we intended to play at the event. The night of the charity event arrived. The venue was packed with guests, local dignitaries, and the press. Evelyn was in her element, charming and gracious. Halfway through the event, during Evelyn's speech, Lucas gave me the signal. I discreetly connected my phone to the audio system and played the recording of Evelyn's tirade from our family dinner. The room went silent as Evelyn's voice, filled with anger and venom, echoed through the speakers. The shock on the guests' faces said it all. Evelyn stood on the stage, her mask of perfection shattered. As the recording played, I walked up to the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, the truth needed to be heard. For too long, my brother and I have suffered under Evelyn's abuse. We have more evidence, proof of her cruelty, not just to us, but to many others." Evelyn tried to deny it, but the evidence was overwhelming. Guests started to murmur among themselves, and the press began snapping photos and taking notes. In the following days, our story exploded in the media. With the public outrage growing, we took the legal route. The evidence we had gathered was irrefutable. The courtroom battle was intense. Evelyn's lawyer tried to discredit us, but the truth was on our side. Witness after witness corroborated our story, and the recorded outbursts played a crucial role. In the end, justice was served. Evelyn faced legal repercussions for her abuse and misconduct. It was more than just a legal victory. It was a personal triumph for Lucas and me. Dad was there in the courtroom, watching it all unfold. After the verdict, he came up to us. "I'm sorry, Mia, Lucas. I should have seen it, should have been there for you." It wasn't easy, but we started to rebuild our relationship with Dad. It took time, but eventually, we found our way back to each other. As for Evelyn, she got the help she needed. She reached out to us eventually, apologizing for her actions. It wasn't easy, but we accepted her apology, not for her sake, but for our own peace. Our family, once broken and fractured, started to heal. We learned to trust and rely on each other again. Lucas and I grew closer through the ordeal, our bond stronger than ever. In the end, we didn't just survive Evelyn's toxicity, we overcame it. We emerged stronger, united, and ready to face whatever life threw at us next. The story of Mia and her journey to justice has come to a close.